Hello, your old buddy Mr. Moore here. I'm creating a series of lessons to help you understand independent and dependent clauses, how to punctuate them, and how to create sentences. So welcome to micro lesson number 1, independent clauses. Stay tuned, you might just learn something fun. Let's start by defining independent clause and dependent clause. My guess is many of you will recognize these definitions. An independent clause is a group of words that can stand alone as a sentence. It has both a subject and a verb, and it forms a complete thought. A dependent clause is a clause that cannot stand alone. They depend on an independent clause to form a complete thought. Let's start by defining independent clause and dependent clause. My guess is many of you will recognize these definitions. An independent clause is a group of words that can stand alone as a sentence. It has both a subject and a verb, and it forms a complete thought. A dependent clause is a clause that cannot stand alone. They depend on an independent clause to form a complete thought. Some would say that a dependent clause is like a dependent child. It's incapable of standing on its own, but it's able to cause an awful lot of trouble. Learning the difference between independent and dependent clauses is important. First of all, I don't want you to be stressed. Life is easier when you know the difference between independent and dependent clauses. When you're sitting up at 2 in the morning or 9:30 in the evening trying to finish a paper and you're not sure if you used the correct way to combine your independent and dependent clauses, you may feel some stress. You may feel some pressure to get your sentence structure correct. Let's avoid that. Let's avoid those feelings and learn early about independent and dependent clauses and how to combine them. Now let's take a look at the middle slide. An independent clause is also known as a simple sentence. An independent clause has a subject and a verb and expresses a complete thought. And you'll see the example there. I washed my hair yesterday. The subject, of course, is the person or place or thing that's doing action. The action in this case is washed. Who washed? I washed. So there's our subject and verb, and we complete the thought with some other parts of speech. I washed my hair yesterday. Simple sentence, also known as an independent clause. In the third slide, you'll see a photograph, a very colorful photograph, I think, of a butterfly sitting on a little flower, and I want you to practice that. I want you to take out a piece of scratch paper or something you have there at home and write 3 simple sentences or independent clauses that describe the photograph. I should really stop here and wait and give you an opportunity to write your own sentences. One simple sentence or independent clause could be, the flower is purple. Another might be, the butterfly is beautiful. A third might be, the butterfly is sitting on the flower. All 3 of those are perfectly fine examples of independent clauses or simple sentences. Can't use mine, you have to make up your own. Hello again. I know you thought I was gone, right? But I just wanted to give you a few moments to reflect on the connecting portion of the sentence, those strong connections that make the train stay on the tracks versus creating a train wreck. And that's a good analogy for sentences. poorly punctuated sentences are a train wreck, while those with good punctuation and clause use can stay on the tracks and keep rolling. So the first thing I want to start with now is the fanboys conjunctions. The real name for the fanboys is the coordinating conjunctions. Here's a point. Coordinating conjunctions link items of equal importance. Just like if we look at the train, all those cars are of equal importance. That's what coordinating conjunctions do for us. They tell us that both parts of the sentence are equally important. Now, we call them fanboys, and that's an acronym that's easy to remember. It stands for and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. And, or, and but are the most common ones, and I think that most of our examples are going to focus around and, but just remember that you could put in any of those fanboys conjunctions. If you notice in the first part of the slide here, connecting independent clauses, this is really neat. So we have the arrow that goes through the target, and the target would rotate so that we could choose the coordinating conjunction that we want. So you have a simple sentence on one side, the conjunction, and a simple sentence on the other side. Here's what that leaves out. The part at the bottom, a compound sentence is two simple sentences joined together by a comma and a conjunction. So if we want to use a coordinating conjunction to connect two independent clauses, it has to have a comma with it, right? Jake waters the lawn, comma, and Billy waters the lawn. So we have to have comma and if we're connecting two simple sentences. The other thing to remember is that fanboys conjunctions or coordinating conjunctions can also connect parts of speech. They don't have to create compound sentences by connecting independent clauses. So you look at our definition here of a compound subject. Jake and Billy water the lawn. We have two people, Jake and Billy, doing one action. So here we have a compound subject, and you'll notice that there is no comma along with that coordinating conjunction. The second example is a compound verb. The kids climbed and played on the jungle gym. So we're combining the two verbs, climbed and played, and there is no comma along with that coordinating conjunction. So to summarize, if we're connecting two independent clauses or two simple sentences, we must use the comma along with the coordinating conjunction. If we're only compounding or connecting parts of speech, such as subjects and verbs, we use the coordinating conjunction without the comma. In both cases, either the sentences or the subjects or the verbs are of equal importance. So let's summarize about comma use. When we're connecting independent clauses, a comma is not enough. If we're connecting independent clauses or simple sentences, we must always use a comma plus a fanboys conjunction, otherwise known as a coordinating conjunction, to connect the independent clauses or simple sentences. And that means when we do that, we make that choice, we're telling our reader that those two independent clauses are of equal importance. There are some other examples of our use of the comma to connect independent clauses. That comes when we're using the conjunctive adverb. The conjunctive adverb is always punctuated the same. There's always a semicolon in front, then the adverb, and then the comma after. We'll always use the conjunctive adverb, properly punctuated, to connect independent clauses or connect or create a compound sentence. The clauses, when they're linked with the conjunctive adverb, properly punctuated, creates a relationship by which one causes the other, one clause causes the second clause, one is exception, one happens in spite of the other, but it creates a relationship, such as, I would love to come to your party, semicolon, however, comma, I'll be out of town that weekend. If I wanted to say that in a different way, I would say I would love to come to your party, semicolon, however, comma, I'll stay home that weekend. So there's a difference in the relationship between the two independent clauses that's signaled by that conjunctive adverb. Now, since we're talking about semicolons, this is a good time to throw in the semicolon alone. We can use the semicolon alone to connect two independent clauses. If we do that, it is always to create a compound sentence, and it creates a compound sentence in which the two independent clauses aren't quite as closely related as they are with the conjunctive adverb. If I said, I'd love to come to your party, semicolon, I'll stay home that weekend. That means there are two things. One, I'd love to come to your party, and I'm going to stay home that weekend, but even though I'm staying home, I may not come to your party anyway. So if you ever had any doubt, if there was ever any question in your mind about when to use a semicolon and when to use a comma, this is the definitive answer. We only use a semicolon when we're connecting independent clauses to create a compound sentence. And we only use a semicolon in one of two ways. Either we use the semicolon with the conjunctive adverb, in which the semicolon always comes first and the comma comes after, or we use the semicolon alone. Always to create a compound sentence, connect independent clauses. These are the only two times we use a semicolon. So if you've ever had that doubt, please don't use a comma every other time and use a semicolon every other time thinking you're going to get half of them right. If you're connecting independent clauses and you're not using a fanboy's conjunction to do it, you have to use a semicolon in one fashion or the other. So that brings us to the end of our micro lesson number 1, independent clauses. Keep this lesson and along with all the other ones somewhere close by or saved somewhere so you have access to them when you need to go back and refer to them. Don't miss the upcoming micro lesson number 2 on dependent clauses. Your old buddy Mr. Moore here saying, I'll see you next time.